Hey everybody, this is Christopher Mick with the Hudson Area Public Library coming to you with a brand new episode of our Women in STEAM series. I'm so happy to have a guest. We haven't talked to anybody in aviation yet, and I've been wanting to get to that for most of the year, and I finally have a few guests lined up to talk about aviation. One of the reasons I'm excited about that is I'm an educator with the Civil Air Patrol doing student programs. I'm also a member of the Experimental Aviation Association, the EAA, that does their annual show, Air Venture, out in Oshkosh. Every summer I try to attend. I also promote the Air Expo out in Edina, Minnesota. And so working with the Young Eagles programs, getting kids to their first flights is something I'm hoping we're going to be able to get back to soon as we get through COVID vaccinations and more pilots come back online to be able to provide those exciting kind of first flights to kids. But I'm going to turn it over to our special guest today, Sharon, to introduce herself. And I will let you do your introduction and we'll get into it here.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited about this. And I was just saying off air, you have probably the coolest background I've seen on an interview thing in a long time. I know. I wish I was actually there in person. I'd be like obsessed with all that. But yeah, first, thank you so much for having me. My name is Sharon Raub, and I am a pilot and also an aircraft broker. So I buy and sell planes, and I'm also a photographer, and I've been doing that for a long time. So I am really excited because I have a passion for helping other women and girls to get involved in not only aviation, but arts and those type of careers that I feel like are really fulfilling. And the more that we can explore that and show other people what that looks like, I think there's super exciting stuff to be had. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, well, and why don't we start there? Because a lot of the young kids I work with, sometimes they've never been exposed to an airplane before. So we kind of talk about some of the things. Maybe we're doing introductory aviation class, and the end of the class will be where they get to do a Young Eagle flight, for the first time. And so they have so many questions. And I'm just wondering, has this been a lifelong interest of yours, or did you come to it later? What was your first kind of access to aviation? How did that get going?
It's funny you mention Young Eagles because my first flight that I remember on a smaller plane was a Young Eagles flight. It was at Oshkosh, which was probably, I was maybe 10 years old, so it's been a little while. I was very fortunate that my dad was very interested in aerospace. He was not a pilot. He actually was a geologist, was kind of the thing that he studied, but he was always fascinated by space. So we did a lot of traveling. He would take me to museums, and I went to all the NASA museums, saw a couple rocket launches. And I think from a very, very young age, I was just obsessed with going outside and looking at the stars and watching the sky. And I think a lot of people, when they think aviation, they think, oh, I have to ride in an airliner, or they think pilot, they think, oh, okay, a jumbo 747 type thing. There's so much more to it than just the airlines. And the more I got exposed to it as a girl, by going to aviation, museums, and my dad would take me to airports and we would watch planes take off and land, the more I got just fascinated with the idea that people were flying. Like, how cool is that, right? So I had two older brothers who were very into planes. They went to flight camps and things like that. They said they were going to be pilots when they grew up. Well, they ended up going into different career fields. I had my first Young Eagles flight at EAA Oshkosh. Young Eagles is a great program. It's a program which allows children, or I think it's under the ages of, I'm not sure the age ranges, but I was about 10 at the time. It allows kids to be exposed to flying in ways that they wouldn't be able to otherwise, because who actually just goes out to the airport to just hop in a plane? Not very many people. So it's a really great way to expose children to the joys of aviation, even outside of just an airline career. So I remember that flight. I was looking at this airplane. It was I don't remember what type it is. And I mean, now that I'm so into aviation, it bothers me that I don't remember what plane it was, right? I think it was like a Piper Cherokee, because I know it was a low wing. But the coolest part was that it was a female pilot. And at the time, I had never seen that before. I was about 10 years old, and I was like, a lady flying this airplane, what? And I remember I was sitting so low in the seat, I could hardly see over the top, but she let me actually take the controls, and I would like fly left and right. And I was like, holy cow, I'm actually flying an airplane. It was very, very impressionable for me. And I remember when I left, I was like, you know what, I want to do that one day. I want to get my pilot's license. Um, so like I mentioned, my brothers ended up not becoming pilots. After high school, I ended up going into photography. I started a business with that. That was my other childhood passion. So I had two huge passions. One was to take photos, and one was to, it was essentially everything sky encompassing, whether it was flying or NASA or that type of thing. So I had like space posters on the wall, and then I would also go to the airports with my camera. So I followed the photography pursuit first, and I started a business with that, taking pictures of people for I started out with like families and engagement sessions, and then I went into weddings and did that for about 6 years out of high school. And at that point, I kind of I accomplished everything I kind of wanted to do. I was doing weddings overseas. I was in the magazines and things like that. And I was like, I wonder if I could somehow tie in my love of aviation, because I started to like, there's really no way to describe it other than like, you belong somewhere. And I just knew it was meant to be in the sky. I know that sounds weird, but I think people that have been up there and know the love of it understand. So very long story short, I decided I was going to retire out of my business. And I was like, what can I do in aviation? I could probably be an airline pilot. That sounds cool. It'll take me a couple years to get there, but that sounds like a good time. So I set my sights on that and started training. And when I was training, I started taking flight lessons at a small airport. And I was in these super old planes that they were really cool. And it seemed like a huge task to actually become a pilot, because there's so much you have to learn. It's very intimidating for a girl who, I did okay in math and science, but it wasn't like my strong suit. So I felt a little bit more of a creative person than technical type stuff. But I knew that like I wanted it so badly, I would make it work no matter what. So little bit of a different path, because while I was in training, a company called Lifestyle Aviation somehow heard about me, and they were like, hey, we think you would actually be super good at aircraft sales. And I was like, aircraft sales? I was like, I don't know anything about that. At the time, I didn't know how people bought airplanes. It just seemed like, I don't know, did they go on Craigslist? I don't even, like, there's really no education out there for people who want to buy planes other than just to type in aircraft for sale on the computer, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, like, is there like a dealership? Like, is you like a showroom? Like, what's going on? Anyway, very long story short, I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina to work with that company. And my training got put on hold for a while, but I fell in love with the idea of helping people buy airplanes, because planes can absolutely change people's lives and how they get to move around. Not to mention they're really, really fun. So aircraft sales has been a career that I didn't even know existed, that has actually ended up being so wildly fulfilling. So I get to help people every single day. And I don't really have goals of going to the airlines anymore, but I did end up finishing my pilot's license. Yep. Yes, it was very difficult. There were a few times I wanted to give up, but it's the moment that I taxied the plane in and the check ride examiner said, "Congratulations, you're a private pilot." I was like, holy cow, I did the thing, right? Yeah. So yeah, all that to say, I'm in a career that a lot of people don't know about and I think is awesome. But aviation as a whole has so many opportunities, especially as a woman. There's so much of an impact you can make because there simply aren't many females in aviation. Mm-hmm. And so the more that I think we can establish that and allow people to see what an amazing career field it is, representation matters. And when people can see themselves in that, I would just love to be able to help show people how great of a career, field it is. So
well, and That's excellent. Well, I should say that too to everybody that's watching, that I'm going to put in the description for the video, there'll be all of Sharon's links for her social media accounts, because I think it's great being friends with you on social media, getting to see all that you're talking about, because sometimes it can be hard to kind of describe or kind of picture that, like what's aircraft sales and is it like car sales or stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, when you post, you're delivering planes, new planes, giving people tours for that, going to air shows, meeting people that you've networked, and that it's really, and your photography you share with that. So it's really great if people want to, follow along with your adventure and kind of the work you've done thus far, and what's the ins and outs of that. Because I think you get a lot from the videos and photos you post. I know I learned a lot because I didn't know anything about aircraft sales, other than if I'm getting like ads in one of my aviation magazines, you'll see,
Right.
but you do a great job of kind of taking you through a day in the life, or what the process is, or kind of the enjoyment, the excitement you get, like you said, turning people onto aviation, or how much it can impact their life, or make changes.
Thank you so much. And that's really my goal with, social media and the internet in general, is when I sat down for my interview for the job that I'm in now, obviously not knowing anything about aircraft sales. I had a sales background and a marketing background, but I didn't know anything about the planes. The guy who is now my boss was like, so what is your goal in aviation? And I was like, I've thought about the airlines, but ultimately my goal is to make an impact in some way for the better. I want to be able to share the love of aviation. I think that's what's really been cool for me about social media, is that it's given me a platform to be able to engage with people who probably I never get to talk to these people. Like, for example, I would have never met you, and you're amazing.
Right.
Like, you and I would probably never have crossed paths. I love the area that you live in, and I actually will be up there a couple times this year, but we wouldn't have like known each other.
Right.
Was a thing, right?
Right. Well, that's been not to sidetrack, but that's been one of the people have shared their stories about how hard this year has been with COVID. And that's obviously so true. And it's impacted so many people in a very negative way. But one of the personal things I'm thankful for is what you just mentioned, because in trying to put together this show, and that, is reaching out to people and trying to network with people on, I want to try to keep the girls here, engaged in STEM. I don't want to lose them because we had to cancel camp, or we can't do, programs, or we can't do Young Eagle flights. That has to go on hold. And I understood all that, but I was racking my brain on what's a way I can keep these girls engaged and informed and getting information. And then, yeah, like you said, networking and reaching out to people. And everybody's been so kind with their time and saying, yeah, when, and I would love to do it. And I've gotten to speak to amazing people and really expand my network of people from all around the world and all around the country, that, as you're saying, that I don't think I ever would have bumped into in my circle of conventions and trainings and educational things. And I'm just very thankful for it. And it's been really exciting to hear the feedback from the kids and to make the new connections, and very grateful for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't really realize this till recently, but I never really found like my people until I found aviation. Aviation has been, and I think this probably also goes for things like space and that whole kind of feeling people get out of that. It's been the most welcoming community, and obviously there are always going to be bad eggs in anything, but by and large, the people that I've met in aviation are just so welcoming and so awesome. We're all bonded by this common love of the sky and of airplanes. And I would say that I've made by far the most friends I've ever made the most connections I've ever had. And, on a whim, you can just invite one of your friends and be like, hey, let's go flying, and have a great time. The people are just incredible and are really what makes this career so impactful for me.
And I think you posted you're working on your instrument rating now.
I am. So for
how's that going?
So for those who don't know, an instrument rating, there are a bunch of different levels to getting your pilot's license. When you first start, you get your private pilot's license. It allows you to carry passengers, and you can fly like by yourself in a small plane. But if you want to do things like fly through clouds, you need to have some additional training, because that's a whole different kind of type of flying. So the instrument rating, which is something that I'm working on next, is going well. So I actually haven't started. I'm the kind of person, I'm a very like all or nothing person. So when I want to like knock it out, I'm going to take like a month to just train probably every day. Spring is a really busy time for me because I actually still run my business shooting weddings and all of that. So it's not been an ideal time to really dedicate to it, but I'm hoping by midsummer, I'll really get that foundation under me. Hoping for a check ride pass sometime this summer. So
Okay.
it's been really cool. I get to fly on instrument flights with, other people in my company who are rated. So I get plenty of experience doing it. I'm really excited to reach that next level of flying myself.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I was just going through. I set off camera. We were talking about. I went to visit my dad recently, and we were going through his old logbooks, and
Okay.
he's certified on single, multi-engine, helicopter, balloon, gliders. Through his career, because he owned a couple aviation schools when he was younger. It was before I was born. In Santa Monica, California, and then Palwaukee, out in Chicago area. So he sold those before I was born. We were kind of going through some of his. I think he had about 4,400 flight hours, and we're going through his
Wow.
logbooks of stuff. But yeah, it was interesting because I didn't know some of the ratings he had. So he'd taken helicopter. He hadn't gotten certified in a helicopter. He'd taken some lessons.
Uh-huh.
But then, yeah, he was certified for gliders and balloon and multi-engine and that. So it was just really interesting to see kind of his logs and go through the different planes that he flew. And
That's awesome. And
yeah,
now I wish I was the one interviewing you because I want to hear all about your story. Because it sounds like your dad was probably instrumental in bringing you into aviation.
yeah, he really Reno air races as a kid. Again, being a pilot, it was not hard to bend his arms. Say I wanted to go to the NASA Ames Research Center, to go check that out. So he was very supportive of me as a kid going to space camp and all that stuff. And I just found out that you pined to be an astronaut. I did not know this. You were giving me new information today.
Yeah. So my childhood dream, still my adult dream, if I'm being honest, is to be an astronaut. Specifically, I think I would have actually pursued it if we were still doing space shuttle missions.
Yeah.
That was really my ultimate dream. I was in high school when I think I would have just graduated high school when the last shuttle launch happened. So obviously I couldn't make that program.
Yeah.
But I was really obsessed with learning about like the Apollo missions, got to meet some of the Apollo astronauts, and learned all, everything that I could. I was obsessed with the idea of, going to the moon and the space race, but I really loved the shuttle program. I thought it was a really unique and awesome program. I ended up not seriously pursuing it because I don't necessarily have that dream of going to Mars specifically, and I feel like that's the next big step.
Yeah.
But that being said, I still dream of going into orbit and into outer space, and I think if the shuttles were in existence, I would definitely still be pursuing that. I feel like that would be the ultimate thrill of living, would be going to space. I get so excited thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of vicariously. I have a friend on social media. Her name's Dr. Cyan Proctor, and she's been a analog astronaut and a teacher in that. And she won one of those slots to go on the Inspiration SpaceX mission. The 4 civilians that are going. And so I screamed and jumped up and down because I'm like living through her now because she's been such a cool friend to me. And then she was one of the selectees to go. So she's in training right now. I think she's on a mountain somewhere in Kilimanjaro. They're doing like expedition training to kind of tighten the crew together, and she's all over the place. So I don't get to talk to her much. I knew she was going to be off grid while she's going through. I think they're flying in like September. She's going to space. Yeah, it's just amazing.
That's so amazing. And honestly, like my dreams aren't over. I would love to at some point one day be able to do that. And I think if I was to, if I could encourage anyone, girls specifically, but anyone, it's that never limit your dreams. If you want to do something, there is a way to do it. Like no matter what your dreams are, either someone else has already done it and can help you do it, or you can be the one to find out how to do it on your own.
Yeah.
The very biggest thing that will help anyone in this industry is networking and meeting people. So, I think a lot of people in STEM are not necessarily they don't feel like they're the most outgoing people. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. I just made a huge generalization and it's probably not true, but I feel like being able to talk to people and just generally making friends in whatever industry you want to go in, especially on social media, it's really going to help too. You will be able to make those connections. Like I said, people that have already done what you want to do, or know people who have already done what you want to do,
Yeah.
can take you where you never thought you could go. So never limit your dreams based on your lack of knowledge or ability, because there are people out there that know, and it's all about finding those people.
That's excellent. Well, and I think that's an excellent note to kind of wrap things up on. But I wanted to ask you one further question. Do you have kind of a rough game plan for like the next 5 years out? You know, I know you're in the instrument thing, you're doing the aircraft broker sales, you've got your photography. Do you think that's going to be all still involved in your life in the next 5 years, or do you have any kind of?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think wedding photography is going to be winding down in the next 1 to 2 years. I've been saying that for the last 3 years, so it might
Okay.
not, but I'll always do that in some form or fashion. As far as aviation, in the next 5 years, I would love to definitely go all the way through my instrument, commercial, multi-engine, CFI, CFII, MEI. I would love to get typed in a couple jets and something like that one day. It doesn't need to be in the next 5 years, but I think I'm going to definitely stay in the general aviation space, but it'll be something that I think I can be at a more executive level. And the company I'm with now is growing by 2 to 3 times every year, and it's
Oh,
really
wow.
exciting. And we're not small, so
Yeah.
the sky is the limit. To not to be cliche, but
Yeah.
the sky is the limit, and I think there are awesome things ahead. And based on the people I get to meet and talk to, the opportunities I get just on the daily, and this is one of them, telling me I'm headed in the right direction. So I don't think you have to have it all figured out. Have a good idea of the next 1 to 2 steps, and the next 10 and 20 will come along as you do that.
Sure. Sure. Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. I know you're very busy
Oh.
almost every day. And so for making some time, I really appreciate it. And are you saying you might be in Oshkosh this summer?
I will be at Oshkosh.
Okay.
I hope to see you there. Are you going to be there?
It's juggling schedules, my daughter, college and pickups and her internship and stuff. So I'm figuring things out. But yeah, I saw Oshkosh was going to be held again this summer, and
We're
the Air
excited.
Expo in Minnesota. So I'm seeing if I can get on that. But I'll put that, as I mentioned at the top, I'll put descriptions for the air shows I mentioned, and for the EAA Young Eagles program, and for Civil Air Patrol. And I'll put Sharon's social media on there, so you can follow her. If you've got any questions, can reach out to her. And then maybe if you get to go to Oshkosh this summer, you'll see Sharon there.
I will be in the Diamond Aircraft booth all week, so
Excellent.
come hang out. I'd love to meet anyone else who loves all the same stuff.
Well, thank you. Good luck with everything you're working on, and I really appreciate the time. And we will catch up with you soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye bye.
Thank you.